here we are at another episode of Toxic Masculinity with none other than my cohort here, Don the Predator Frye.
Hey, baby. How are you today, Mr. Severn?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Mr. Beast.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm still above ground, so we're doing good.
Yeah. I think I got a beast infection here. We're lucky we got the great Rob Schneider, good friend of mine.
God bless you. Good to see you, Don.
And we got another good friend, Rich Marino. Rich, one of my sparring partners from the day one. Actually, before day one, we knew each other doing judo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Don, what you're trying to say, you actually have a sparring partner that you're not married to. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's not because he didn't propose.
Yes.
I did.
Well, that's a pretty good nose you still got for being a sparring partner with the great Don Frye.
Yeah, that's what you get from running.
All right, well, that'll work.
Run.
He covered up real good.
There you go.
Fetal position.
So was it mostly wrestling, sparring, or was it?
We did everything.
Everything.
Judo, boxing, kickboxing.
In the microphone.
It all went from that mixed martial arts genre to what is now, from no holds barred to the mixed martial arts genre. So
Yeah, I mean, you were in early, maybe too early.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a quite. I mean, the Tokyo Dome. Well, what are some of the memories that, like, the ones that stick out to you? That first time must have been intimidating.
No. First time was easy. It was down there in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay. So it kind of built up from there to the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah. But I had fought, Dan got me a few fights before that.
Okay.
I'd seen him on TV in number 4 and number 5.
Yeah.
And I was my first ex-wife.
Yeah.
Mary was taking a shit. And so I started doing judo just to, get rid of some frustrations.
And so you were in the fight biz too, obviously, right?
Well, just a little bit before Don was. Yeah, from UFC number 4 was my very first one. So single digits to where, when you look at how many they've gone over the number of decades now, it's incredible from what it went from the no holds barred era of only having 2 rules, no weight classes, to now mixed martial arts, and it's known throughout the world.
So how were the deals back then? Like when somebody would approach you,
they were bad.
But when you get like this, how did you have to go up to somebody?
Rob, these are contracts that you really might be interested in. It's like, Dad, you're guaranteed $1,000. $1,000, and let's see. The only 2 things you can't do to another human being is bite them or stick a finger in their eye socket. No eye gouge you. But even then, it wasn't grounds for disqualification.
It was a warning.
It's just like going, hey, get that finger out of his eye. That's all.
Spit that ear out right now. Spit his ear back on.
And 4 buffet tickets
Yeah.
to use at your own discretion.
And so these were obviously like the most legitimate promoters originally.
Well, it's still there has been 4 different ownerships of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The originator, Art Davie.
Yeah,
he's still alive today, and he was the originator of it, and he had a partnership with Horian Gracie. So the 2 of them together formed the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Yeah,
but business wise, it was all Art Davie's idea.
Yeah, and so it was. I remember like the cool thing about it was like how illegal it was. There were cities that banned it.
Oh,
yeah,
New York City was like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
We're getting heckled by a dog over here.
Yeah.
What the hell is this shit?
That's Don's,
Entourage.
That's Don. Yeah. This is
We were just talking about that evening that they canceled the fight in New York.
I remember
in
that.
New York, and I was telling Dan that's when I first realized that the money wasn't about the gate, the ticket sales at the gate. When they contracted a 747 and opened the Buffalo airport in the middle of the night to fly everybody, the crew, the fighters, teams, everybody to Dothan, Alabama. I'm like, this is big money.
Yeah, and even in down in Dothan, Alabama, they don't think they charge a single person. They simply just open up the doors like free admittance. Come on in and watch men knock the crap out of each other.
Yeah, well, that's I remember. Like some of the first places where it was legal was where.
Well,
Dothan, Alabama.
Alabama, obviously.
I say no. The original all took place up in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it got slowly got closed down, and it was the joke. It says like, all right, after the fight, you get two options. You either go to the hospital or you go to the after party. but then at the end, it was also, or you go to jail.
Yeah.
There were some times when it was being threatened that you may walk out of that cage and you may be handcuffed because they're trying to shut down more and more on the whole industry. I mean, it went again going from that no holds barred to the mixed martial arts. What was it? Jeff Blatnick was the gentleman's name that throughout. I don't think it came about till around that 2004, 5, or 6 that it actually became known as mixed martial arts.
Okay.
They were trying to bring forth all the martial arts attributes that you actually have to have a background in. It could be boxing, kickboxing, karate, Muay Thai, karate, kung fu. And you also needed some type of an arsenal in the grappling arts. So judo, jiu-jitsu.
Well, I remember that was the potential, because it was impossible to beat the guys who were, in jiu-jitsu. I mean, especially the Brazilians who had the wonderful quality of the physical ability and also to be experts in jiu-jitsu. And it almost threatened that they were so successful that if they didn't get knocked out, for sure they were going to win because they just had to get into position. So everybody had to learn a certain level of grappling and jiu-jitsu. So that's when the wrestling guys kind of came in who were able to defend themselves enough to knock the shit out of the guys, right?
Well, that's probably a most on point analogy.
Dan came in and ruined it.
I was the first world class wrestler to step inside the octagon cage.
That's right, yeah.
And then it's kind of disrupted things to where
it
things
did
had
because
to be
no one
changed.
could beat the Brazilian. The Gracie was like, that was it. It was he was like, okay, he's not gonna, if you can't knock him out quick and he can get on his feet and still beat you. I mean, he's on his back beating you with his feet and just pretty soon. So I think that did threaten the business to whereas, because Americans need to have an American champion. They need to have a guy. They need to have a chance. It can't just be, from some guy from Santiago, Brazil. We have Santiago. It's got to be somebody who's and so that's what changed.
Somebody with a big mustache.
Yeah, somebody who
white guy, white privilege.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that right now.
We needed it. No, they needed an American champion for sure. To make it interesting, right?
I think that as a sport that was developed in the United States, they're looking for someone from the United States there to represent it as well.
But also, I mean, what I think you need, like in any form of, where you have a boxing or mixed martial arts, as they now call it, or ultimate fighting, you have to have several people at the best time of their career who can challenge each other. I mean, if boxing had its heyday, in the late 70s because you had Hagler, Sugar Ray, and Hearns.
Thomas Hearns, yeah.
And then Duran probably at the end of his peak, but he was still there. So you had some guys, you had some bitchin' fights, even at the end. I mean, probably the best fight was at the end of their careers with Sugar Ray and Hearns and that supposed draw that they had. But they were beat the shit out of each other. There's nothing like that. So that was the kind of thing. So the turnaround for this thing to go global. Did you see it going global?
Well, if it could survive the politicians, that's really what it boiled down to.
No, we really thought we were going to go to jail.
There were times when I first saw this product, it was on an old VHS tape. That's what a buddy watched the first two.
Yeah.
He copied it and he basically showed it to me. And what I was more intrigued with was the fact that I had a couple other buddies that happened to stop by, and I threw it on. And I was watching my buddies more than I was watching the product. I'm thinking, look at these guys. They're on the edge of the couch. They're they're beating on the coffee table. They're just getting. I just can't believe how wrapped up they got into this. I'm thinking, there's something here. But then I think when you look at sports, I mean, football is big because it's big. It's big men that's colliding into each other. So anytime that you could kind of put something. Call it legalized violence. Yeah. There's an attraction towards it. Boxing is a great attraction because you're posing your will upon an opponent in a very bludgeoning type of way.
And there's a winner and there's a loser, and you don't have to wait to find out. So much in life is gray area. But when two guys get in the ring to beat the shit out of each other, it can be an impressive fight.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and truthfully, in boxing, you haven't really had, I think a lot of the great American boxers, we lost those great African American boxers. We lost to other sports, to football. If you had a chance to play football or basketball, or getting the crap beat out of you, you're gonna, and having with fists, you're gonna play basketball. You're gonna go
easy way, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're gonna, just thinking about like on the beating of the body. So if you had a chance to play basketball, you'd do it. That's why it's a shame for me as a fan of baseball is that we lost those great American ball players, baseball players that we don't have. You have the guys they've got the if you go to the Dominican Republic, they've got like these it's like a farm system there, literally.
Yes.
You get 12, 13. By the time they're 16, they're signed by the Yankees.
Right.
And that's so you have like a huge amount of I don't know if the exact numbers, but maybe 1/3 of baseball is these terrifically talented players. But like I missed so you got the Burt Campaneris and these guys, but I missed the Hank Aaron's, the Willie Mays, the guys from Mobile, Alabama, who just come up and just smack the crap out of the ball, and there was a beautiful swing and just a wonderful ball player, Ken Griffey Jr.
Home runs. People want to see home runs.
They want to see grace, and the same thing. Like so in the fight game, seeing it. Finally, I think it took me a while to understand the grappling of it because it was really tough for me to sit and watch and not understand like the intricacies of what's happening on the ground. And if it's 2 minutes on the ground, you go like, okay, what else do we got? So I think that it's been a tough, slow process to educate people that it's interesting on the ground too. And truthfully, what upped the game was, seeing, Rousey, a female, actually take the sport up to another level. And she was just, arm bars.
Yes.
But that was exciting how quick she could do it and her flexibility. She obviously, ran out of somebody got her number. But she couldn't get an arm bar pretty quickly. She was vulnerable. Yeah. But that was so for a woman to take the sport up to the next level, I really think she is the one to get. Would you say that she was the credit?
No. Again, she did a fantastic job coming on the scene and just representing the female aspect of the mixed martial arts world.
Yeah.
And to finish all of our matches with that arm bar, and just like you said, so quickly in the process.
So going back to like when how did it get from like you're a fireman? How the hell did it happen to where you're at the Tokyo Dome? I still don't understand that. I've known you for 15 years. I still don't understand that transition.
I don't either, Burner.
We had been doing judo for a while,
Yeah.
and actually Don saw Dan, or I don't know if you were in touch with him, but
No,
I remember the next time I talked to Don, which was a day or two after that fight, he's like, I gotta do this. He's like, I called Dan and he's working on it, and then we just started, instead of going to like the boxing gym one day and wrestling one day and doing judo, we just started like incorporating it more. But like what you were saying about the learning curve, I can remember watching early UFCs and the guy on the bottoms appears to be getting beat. The guy on the top appears to be winning. And then all of a sudden the ref pulls him apart and the guy in the bottom won, and everyone's like, what happened there? What happened there?
Yeah.
And my friends in the room are saying, what transpired? What happened? I'm like, well, the guy on the bottom got him in Sangaku, which the rest of the world calls a triangle. So he was choking him and da-da-da-da-da. So we had been mixing, and as well as Dan, mixing this up.
Well, Don had the look and had the ability to have a good ground game, but also, just be like a man's man. And just seeing you in those Speedos, and making America proud over there, holding your own.
Part of America.
Yeah. It brought up the viewership.
But yeah, wouldn't you agree that like a lot of the people, in our world anyways, already had a nice mixture of stuff, and whether the rest of the world knew that they knew what a certain armbar was, or a certain, it was already it was known to us already.
That grappling background actually, it was a great foundation to work from. If you were a world-class wrestler, you were already used to being
in front of the crowd.
You're used to be not only just being in front of that crowd, but also the referees. A lot of countries did not like Americans.
Yeah.
Again, the propaganda that's being spewed at the time. I mean, we just a lot of countries did not like Americans for whatever reason, and so when you'd walk out on a mat, you did not only did you have to beat your opponent.
Yeah.
There'd always be 3 referees. You had to beat 2 out of 3 of the referees as well.
Yeah, you had to win
because you always if you.
decisively.
Well, the center referee, the guy out on the mat, he'll be calling like, okay, there was a takedown. He'll be signaling that there was a point, and then he's looking to one of the side referees because one of the other judges would always have to agree with them.
Confirm.
And half the time when he's looking over at one referee, the other referee would be like, all of a sudden, oh, tie his shoe, or he'd be looking off this way, and just never see it, so they wouldn't get the confirmation. So literally, when I say that you had to beat 2 out of 3 of the referees on top of your opponent, you had to do it at that time.
But the jump now to go to like Pride, like when did Pride come in? Is that Pride was kind of an earlier one where it started to go like big? You know, you got the sense of like, okay, there's a shitload of money in this now.
Pride was really big. I mean, again, for the Japanese market, was huge.
Yeah,
and it actually, I think, in some ways, became almost a bigger freak show than what the UFC was.
It kind of became like, well, because of no holds bars, and also it seemed to be a combination of mixed martial arts and wrestling in the sense of the hysteria. Yeah, you know, like just the maddening screaming.
Well, I think if you could take some of the charisma.
Yeah.
Of professional wrestling. Again, we're talking about a couple different things. There's amateur wrestling backgrounds that we're sharing. And actually, we talked a little bit before we start rolling. You were saying that I kind of look like a wrestling coach.
Yeah, you do.
Bingo. Yeah. So, but that's what a lot of our pedigrees are as well. That's our background. But it's the grappling portion is huge. You can actually take a guy that has a very high skill level. They're pretty good about not getting hit.
Yeah.
And if you can get to that takedown or get to that clinch or get them jammed up against that cage wall, you've neutralized 90+% of most stand-up capabilities. Right. Most stand-up strikers, they need an amount of space to throw that punch, that kick, that spinning back fist, that spinning back elbow, knees, elbows, they need space. But the moment that you're clinched, taken down, I used to always say that I was just a wrestler, and I basically just would do those 3 elements. And that was really the premise I went out there with, and it served me quite well. But now that the sport has been around long enough, the sport not only has evolved, but all of the athletes have evolved with it. Now, today, you've got, Don was probably one of the most complete competitors in the Ultimate Fight Champions because he had a boxing background.
Probably.
Okay.
Don had this special quality to be able to wrestle and also go toe to toe with you, and also break an opponent's hand by ducking his head.
Yeah,
literally.
Literally, spot on.
I mean, literally, like I saw when he went down there, and then the guy didn't hit him again in the head because his hand was done at that point. So Don had a special, like he just knew. You know, there was a fighter has to. And they say, you know. In boxing, they got to sacrifice the body. You got to step in, you know. And Don was that guy. He was just like, he was not going to back away.
Well, Rob, to take you back to some of my coaching days at Arizona State, as an assistant coach, I went out with the wrestlers at a few of the different establishments that they would go to partake of some beverages and things of that nature. Well, if there was some altercations, as they're heading outside, I was following right along there with them. Okay, following right along with them, and now they're looking at me because it'd be Don. That would be, you know, that's going to be in the middle of all this, and they're like, and they're looking.
I was picked on them.
Okay,
you know.
now they're looking at me and they're like, "Oh, you're not going to be jumping in." I go, "Oh no. Trust me, I'm not going to jump in on this. I'm just here to make certain that y'all ain't going to be jumping in there." I go, "He's good to go. I feel sorry for the sorry son of a bitch who's going to go up against him right now."
I know. Well, that's what happens. You know, the thing that was amazing with Don is that, you know, when any great fighters, there's a piece about them, you know, because they have a confidence to them. And there isn't like, they don't have to prove anything. It's the people that have to prove something. These are the assholes that try to jump on you. And I was with Don with some guy who literally jumped on his back and just like, what can you do? And Don was very graceful. It was at a bar or restaurant. Bar restaurant, and he said he didn't want to destroy the guy and break his face because he was with me and didn't want to ruin the movie, didn't want to get in the newspaper or whatever, you know, because we had to shoot the next day. But like it was that kind of gracefulness about it, and also he's very kind about that to not destroy this guy who jumped on your back.
I don't know that guy you're talking about.
I'm sure he, you know, we're shooting a movie and we had a great time on it. But Don was terrific actor too as well. I was able to like, I really appreciate that because Don was able to like settle down in a scene, knew what the scene was about, and able to do the scene and to do it in a way that wasn't about, you know, what he could showcase for what the best thing that was for the scene. And it was great to have that. He didn't have to, you know, explain anything. He understood it was the difference between like comedy and drama. And all comedy is drama just turned up sillier. And it was funny. You could just see it in his eyes, you know. And it was fun to do, and it was a difficult shoot because we were up there in a real
prison.
In a real prison. It was a women's penitentiary. That was an active women's penitentiary. The problem was there's just not enough women felons to really fill it out. California was disappointed that they didn't, you know, they made a prison for women felons. There just wasn't enough violent women.
They're just not getting caught.
Yeah,
They're out there, Rob.
I give you I get a phone book full.
It's called his black book, but that's a different story.
So we just had a great time. My best compliment I got on that whole movie was Don's looking at me while we were doing this shower scene, basically naked in the shower. He said, "Hey, what kind of steroids are you on?" And I went, "All right, he thinks I'm taking steroids." "What are you taking?" I said, "Oh, fuck yeah, that's a good compliment." We had a good time.
You're scary in the shower.
We had a good time though. And it was fun, you know. Getting to make a movie, it's really a rarity because it's the hardest thing in all show business to do.
Okay.
We had Bob Sapp, and Bob was fantastic.
Yeah, he was great.
Bob was just silly. You know, he's 380 pounds of muscle and silly.
Yeah, I remember the stunt coordinator, Gary Gercio, great guy. He said to me, there was a scene where I'm supposed to be jumping on Bob Sapp, and he said, "Listen to me, here's the deal. Bob Sapp's about 340. And he said, if he falls on you, movie's over." So that's it. So do you really want to do that? And I said, well, what else can we do? And so, but we had a good time. You try to make a movie and do the best you can with it. That title was originally, we couldn't make that movie again today.
No.
That movie was originally called Unrapeable. And it's about a guy
Originally, that's what it was called?
Yeah,
I think you're
Unrapeable.
going to say Blazing Saddles too.
So
Didn't make that.
It's about a little guy who's a criminal. He's going to go to prison and is afraid what could happen to a little guy in prison. And so he hires the master to train him to defend himself in there. And it's just a fun movie
It was a lot of fun.
that you couldn't make today. You know, it's one of those things like you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today.
No.
You couldn't make this.
No,
one.
there's a lot of movies that would be frowned upon. Yes.
Yeah, but one of the things I really took with me was like you just hope that there's somebody who's a real fighter who can act and that can bring some gravitas to it and have some humor to it.
And Bob did it, yeah.
And you did.
Bob did.
You were terrific, you know. And it's like I'm always looking for something for Don. You know, we're doing this little movie. We got to have you do something in it, a new one.
I just hid behind you the whole time. I was just eye candy. You did all the work.
No, you did great. It was a blast.
Rob, how long have you been in the movies, though? I mean,
Well,
how long have you been in that industry?
I didn't know anybody in the business, and I just, but I wanted to do it, you know. And there's a certain thing about like you don't realize when you're a young man. It's like, you know, just if you love something, you want to do it. That excitement is what can create something. That's just the way I'm positive how like the universe works in creativity. It's half you and half your excitement to it, and then bringing something to it, and then the next thing you know, you're just. You know, I got in. I wasn't able to get jobs as an actor, but I was able to get on stage as a comedian. So I'd be acting out these scenes, you know, as my stand-up act, which I still do. I play all the characters because I wasn't getting acting work. I wasn't writing movies that were getting made. And then the next thing I got on Saturday Night Live, which is small little scenes, you know, and so that which kind of worked into movies. And it was just I didn't have any career guidance or any career plan, and I think my career has proved that. I have no plan.
How old were you when you knew you wanted to be an actor?
Well, I mean, I kind of knew it like 13, 14. I saw George Carlin perform, and I was like, I laughed my ass off. And how can this guy be this funny? I didn't realize it's years and years and years and years and years.
But
it takes us a
Saturday
while.
Night Live was actually what I think.
When I was in my 20s when I got on Saturday Night Live. That was another because I was doing stand-up, and Robin Williams got discovered in San Francisco, and then they said, this guy was so talented. They started looking for other guys, and then Dana Carvey was another guy, super talented, super funny, very lovely, humble guy, and with a gigantic talent. And then they said, well, after him, they started looking for a new guy, and then I was the other guy that they picked. Not as talented as those guys.
You were known as the Rob Band,
Untitled
the
Copies.
Robineister.
Well, you never know what's gonna hit.
The Robineister using the copy machine.
That's right.
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Those guys.
That
Couple
hit hard.
of guys showed me that just before he got here, and I thought, oh my god, somehow I've got to work that in because that was fantastic. That was fantastic.
You never know what's gonna like. America just wants to laugh and looking for something funny,
Exactly.
and to something to do. And like for radio guys in the morning, they go, "Good morning, all right, the Stevenator, all right, Frye-orama."
Do people still
Donster
hit you with that quite a
Not
bit?
as much. It was God. That's 28 years ago now.
Yeah, but still, it was very comical.
timeless.
It was
It
comical.
had like it just hit the pop culture.
It was great though, Rob.
was a-
You did a great. You like Midas. You got the Midas touch, man.
Was that your idea? Or-
Yeah, that was what happened was I was in the writers' room, and what happened was because they had so many people. That was one of the casts where there's too many people on the cast. Like the scrawl in the beginning where they introduced the cast seemed to be longer than the actual show. And Dana Carvey, and Phil Hartman, and Al Franken, and Adam Sandler, and Dana Carvey, and Rob Schneider. It was very long. So they had so many writers, the performer writers, that they kept dividing up the offices into half an office. And I had the heater and cooler, and I'm claustrophobic because I have two older brothers. And then getting smothered my whole childhood. So then they had me in this tiny little office, and then I hated it. So I got out of there, and then I would just sit out in the writers' room, and people would walk by all day. And I just noticed you couldn't be as excited the 10th time when you see somebody. Hey, Kevin, all right, Kevinator. Kevin, going to the bathroom. So and it was a very simple idea, and I think the simplest ones are the ones that they kind of get across. But it's been fun. I honestly I'm still shocked. I've been doing this for 30 years. I can't believe it. You just the next thing I didn't have people punching me in the face. Critics.
You look like it.
I know, I do feel. I've been married a few times too. Financially punched in the balls a few
Holy
times.
shit! No kidding.
But the main thing is just, if you're gonna keep doing it, you gotta love it. You gotta have fun with it, and to rediscover what it is you love about it. Because if you're not excited about it, it does go away.
No, I totally agree, and you could, I could hear it in your voice that you really enjoyed what you're doing, and you said you got a new project that you're working on.
Yeah,
now,
with
and
my daughter, which is I still can't believe it's happening. We got to work on the script a little bit more, but it's
Which
just
daughter though?
my daughter Miranda, who goes.
She's what, 6 or 7?
She's 8.
Wow.
And she's just discovering that people know me for another reason than just they know me.
Third, would that be like third grade,
Second grade.
Okay, all right.
Just turned 8, yeah, and it's fun. It's going to be a nice little movie. It's about a dad who's kind of a losery guy with the dreamer, and it's never quite worked out for him. And his daughter's embarrassed that they're not going anywhere, and everybody else is for spring break. And so she lies and says she's going to go to all these places, and the dad says, "I'm going to make it happen for you," and they don't have any money. So they sneak into places and stuff like that.
Teaching the young all the tricks of the trade.
I lived
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I lived that story. No, really. My son, I went to his, third grade teacher conference, and lady says, Mr. Moreno, your life is so exciting. Doing whitewater raft. So he had been feeding her that we've been all over the place, and she keeps bugging me about all this stuff. I'm like, let's talk about his grades and stuff. And finally, I told her, I'm like, he has something to tell you. So he breaks down and tells her that it wasn't real, that he was,
Wow.
and they both started crying. And they hugged each other. And she's like, "You don't have to do that. I love you." Oh my god!
Yeah, so
Dad's a loser. I feel bad
I've
for
never
him.
it's
been out
not
of the
you.
county.
It's
Got a
not
little
you.
bit of intervention here, huh?
That's not you. It's your dad. So we're just trying to, and to get some laughs. Because right now, I think we really have an era of it's not that I would say things are uglier than ever. It's always the potential of the ugliness is always there if you look for it, but it's just never been more obvious in society. The ugliness and the manipulation of the ugliness for profit, for tech companies' profit is totally there. And so there's that really hyper focused on the separations and the ugliness and the people shitting on other people, as if there's only two different ways of looking at America and Republicans. I just remember when there was a flood in Houston a couple of summers ago, and now there's it's like minus 8 degrees there. It's like the Arctic. Global warming right there. So I remember when there was a flood in Houston, I would tell this to people. I said, when the firemen, thank you for your service. When the firemen were going around and people saving other people in boats, when they on the roofs, they weren't saying, "Are you a Republican or a Democrat?" Okay, the Democrats, you can get in the boat. Republicans, no. It's like, no, you save your neighbor. It's
Exactly.
like so that this whole hyper, there's a kind of like the ultimate fighting between as if there's only two groups of Americans and they're so disparate and they have a lot more in common than they have separately. So it's just a manipulation, and people will hopefully wake up to it that all of us are being used for Twitter's profits, for Google's profits, and for Facebook's profits. And I hope people wake up to it.
I have to go see a man about a horse.
Get on that.
I gotta manipulate something.
You go manipulate that and come right back. We'll talk about you when you're gone.
Yeah, we'll talk about his back.
We can edit this out. I guarantee. Is he going to come back or no?
Oh no,
he'll be back.
Don'll be back. Yeah, he'll be
Okay,
back.
good, good.
He just, like I said, he's got to take care of things. Where he's at that age now that you just can't.
They have things for that now. They have those truck driver things you piss in. I think they have that.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a tube or something. You got to stay on the road, baby. You got to keep driving.
Yeah,
You got to deliver that at those Amazon stuff, whatever it takes.
Trust me, it's I've known a lot of truck drivers that they don't stop too often. They.
I remember
keep
that.
on
Like,
going.
I remember that female astronaut who was trying to kill the lover of the wife of her lover. And she had like adult diapers on. She's like, I'm gonna kill that bitch. I'm not taking any time. She was like, stalking the woman. You got to look it up. Astronaut,
real, or is it a
female
movie?
astronaut, adult diapers. Just look it up. Somebody look it up. Come on.
Something underneath that category.
I'm
Yeah.
not doing it
Yeah.
on my phone.
Yeah, it's
Astronaut. No. It was this girl that was she was having an affair with an astronaut and who was married. And she wanted to kill the wife. Yeah. I think these great stories. That's a good one. Astronaut, adult diaper, woman. Sorry. I digress. We'll wait for Don to come back, I guess. So what else?
no, we don't have to bother wait with that. We'll just keep on rolling here. I'm a little bit more curious though about again just getting how you got your start in. I mean, not just your start in movies, but did you do something in high school? Did you do something in college where you're like part of a drama team?
There was no. I came from I didn't realize it wasn't such a poor neighborhood I came from, but it was a poor school district.
Where did you grow up?
The Laguna Salada School District, and it was in just below San Francisco. It was a little beach town called Pacifica, and they didn't have drama program. They didn't have they had a music program, and then they lost it for a lot of years. And my family and I put it back in for 15 years, and then it's still existing now. But it was we didn't have drama. But what they did was they put on a show in the cafeteria, which is not exactly a theater. But it's what we had, It was like a little stage, and you get up and you do it, and they put some chairs in and put a microphone and a couple speakers, and then we put on like a little talent show. And that was like the first thing I ever did. But at like 15, I realized I found out that there was a comedy club that was called the Holy City Zoo, and I found out that on Mondays they allow anybody to go on stage if they just wait in line.
Like an open mic.
Yeah, so I told my dad, I said, there's like this place that lets anybody go on
That's
Mondays.
pretty ballsy.
at 15.
At 15. That's
15,
pretty
and my
ballsy.
dad said, okay, let's go. And so he drove me out there. We waited with like 30 other comedians, so-called
Your dad was
comedians.
into it.
My dad was, he had comedy albums. He understood, and he always supported me, that was an important thing to have, was like, somebody go, yeah, let's do it. As opposed to like, no, what are you doing,
Be a comedian. Come on.
Yeah, it's not exactly like a strategy for success in life, wanting to become a comedian, especially when, they didn't know anybody that did that. So, but it was, having that support was just gigantic, was enormous. And then, I kind of had success with it pretty quick. It took me a couple of years, but I started at 16 a little bit, and then 17, and then 18. By the time I was 19, I was doing it full time. And then by the time I was 20, I did my first national TV show. By 22, I was on David Letterman. And then, 25, I was on Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
So, at that time, it's a lifetime. By the time from 16 to 25 is like a 30 or, like half of your adult life at that time. So it was that seemed like it's forever. But now I realize that wasn't that long of a time.
What was that first set like? How'd you do?
The first set, first of all, it's not comfortable for an audience to see a child on stage So I had a trombone, and between jokes, I would like play the trombone like some weirdo, But
Wait. Hey, I played the trombone also.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
In
I
junior
did
high, I played the trombone.
I played trombone, yeah, but it's not exactly cool.
No, exactly. It's not. It's like
it
if you
doesn't
played the
help you.
cornet, play the drums, it'd be something.
The trombone
different.
you play the violin by yourself if you play well, or play the piano by yourself. That's nice. But you play the trombone by yourself. Can you turn that off? Can you do that in the garage? So, but anyway, it was just you get on stage, and then it takes years, and you kind of have to break down your ego, and then figure out how to do it as an art form, and get at the same time. It's like I call it stage legs, like sea legs.
Okay.
You got to get comfortable. Like if you're not comfortable, the audience isn't going to be comfortable. And then if you're a child, the audience isn't going to be comfortable because they're drinking, trying to get laid or whatever, and like you're this child on stage and basically a witness to their own depravity, their own drunkenness. So it's not cohesive to conducive, I should say, to successfully being a comedian. But then at the same time, I got a little bit older. I had a kind of a rockabilly look, and then like at 20, 21, it was more acceptable. And then by the time it was kind of fun. And then you'd realize like sometimes it would be packed and it'd be like wonderful. Like you'd have a great audience. You go, yeah, this is amazing.
Well, especially when you're orchestrating them and you know what you're doing. You're spinning your craft and you're getting in the pop. So it becomes more seasoned.
And then
It's got to be like a drug too. Like
my goodness,
you feed off of it and you want more and more.
Well, then you realize, first of all, girls would want to take you home that would never have anything to do with you if you weren't a performer. That was the thing. Like what? What? And I just remember, like this is the greatest thing ever. This is like, there's another part to this that I had no idea about. The fact that you can get women outside your division, so to speak, your weight class, so to speak, and so these beautiful girls, all of a sudden they'd be like, oh my goodness, so it was just the kind of the idea of fame suddenly, poked its ugly head into and then became part of my consciousness. Like, wait a minute, there's some accoutrement to this thing, There's some good stuff that comes with it, money, fame, and that kind of thing. But the key to it is the art and loving it. Like I would say the difference between me and Adam Sandler and our generation, David Spade and those guys, Chris Rock, was we really wanted to become famous. We really wanted to become good at our craft and be, and there wasn't like a druggy group of like the first. Because that was a very cultural thing. Not just it was at SNL, but like in the 70s, it was a druggy thing. Nobody OD'd at cocaine at that time. That was like, it was, Woody Allen used to do jokes about that in his movies. Whereas, it became dangerous when there was a lot of it and a lot of money.
Richard Pryor.
Yeah, but we never had enough money to like get into trouble with drugs. And it was also realized, if you want to be famous, then you don't want to be those guys who are doing that.
Yeah.
It's like the athletes are not going to be successful. The ones who are going out drinking too heavy.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's,
I don't know anything about that.
They're the exceptions. There was always the Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy be out, he'd be out all night partying. And can you imagine that guy sober? What he would have done to opposing teams if he was not up all night doing blow and with.
I'd say in the mixed martial arts era, that would have been the Tank Abbott, right? That partook of a little bit too many barley pops, and yeah, I'd say Tank Abbott was probably the biggest standout that partied pretty hard, and he even would be bragocious said, I just climbed off of a bar stool just to come here, just to take a stiff drink of coffee, and here I am. So
it's a bunch of bullshit.
It was okay.
He sold a good package.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, He trained in wrestling. They talked about at Ultimate 2. They talked about having Jesse Reed train him. And the UFC paid for that because the UFC wanted Tank Abbott to be their poster boy. So they paid for him to be.
I don't know.
They paid for him to be trained, and but he sold the package of just getting off the bar stool, which is, like I said, just complete bullshit.
It's a character thing too, for sure. Like I could tell, like the last fight that the Irish champion. I can't think.
McGregor?
McGregor.
Yeah, Conor McGregor.
I can just tell he wasn't at his best. As soon as he wasn't doing the dance when he walked into the ring, he was singing. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
If you're not looking like you're ready to beat the shit out of somebody and you're singing, and he didn't do that. You didn't see like the McGregor.
Yeah, I can say that his McGregor walk. Yes,
He didn't do like that little lion thing that he normally does. Hello. And so I knew something was up with him. He still was, in the first round was still doing pretty good. That guy looks like he's always performing like he's fighting on one lung. He runs out of air as I watch him. That was the fight that with the too big, the gloves that were too big. When he tried to do real boxing, I thought uh-oh, he's not going to make this.
He did have a pretty good saying after the fight, though. Did you hear what he said? He said this sport does not reward people that take time off.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
So, but that's hopefully that guy saved his money. I think he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's got that whiskey thing going,
Yeah, a lot of actors say the same thing. It's like they don't make money in films as much, but they go to China, they do a beer commercial, and they hope no one ever sees it. George Clooney will get $5 million to do a beer commercial in China for Tsingtao, and then the next thing you know.
Right.
Yeah, I want that. That's what I'm trying to get.
Well, geez Louise. Who's a diehard actor? Bruce Willis. Bruce
Yeah.
Willis goes to Japan, does, a $5 million commercial, for a bank or something.
Yeah, that's good. That's if you can get it.
1 day, 2 day shoot. Yeah, and then comes back with a wheelbarrow full of money.
Right, yeah, that's good shit. He does a lot of movies, too, that you'll never see. He just goes, he's like, I see him, he's like in Georgia shooting all the time, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just go back a bit early on when we were talking to you. Okay, how long have you been a native? You said since June. Since June.
Been here since in June. Yeah.
Can I ask, what prompted you to relocate from? Could you say?
Hey, look, I love
California to here.
I consider myself a 1970s liberal, which makes me an arch conservative now, and I just couldn't stand it anymore. California, just the idea that. I'll just tell you one story. There it goes. We had a nice condo in San Francisco, and they said you have to remove the flower pots in front of the condo. And I go, they said I said why? Because you're being used as toilets by homeless people, and so that was it, literally. So wow. So it just became nuts, and then the city didn't want to do anything, and it's like you got tents in front of your place. So San Francisco just became it used to be such a beautiful, amazing city, and it just isn't anymore. And the state is just going to shit. And to be honest with you, there's a one-party system of Democrats, and they just ruin the state. Honestly, I hope the recall happens. I hope they throw that authoritarian asshole Gavin Newsom out, and there's a good chance it's going to happen. We'll see, but they're also in charge of the election committee, which means, the electoral board, which means like they're going to be in charge of throwing out stuff. All of a sudden, they care about signatures on ballots.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Aunt Nancy,
Yes. So we'll see what happens. But I will say that Arizona's a more free state. It's open. It's like Florida.
Big time. I've been to Texas a few times. I've been to Florida now a few times. I've got a few more trips coming up, and I love the state governors of these states because they're proactive.
You have to keep things open. You have to keep the idea that you have to shut everything down for a virus that has a 99.8% cure rate.
Yep.
Seems to me, and to not to say the collateral damage from shutting it down, from the suicides, from the psychological, taking a year away from these children's. All the sports, all the final year in college for those basketball kids, all the high school kids, and there's a year of their lives. So they're seeing businesses, half of all restaurants. Threatened to go under.
Yeah, but just see what you're talking about there with the children having to be home from school. Who could be there watching me?
Yeah, exactly. That's just assuming. That's just assuming that everyone has good internet and that the parents can stay there and watch them. A lot of the parents, both my parents worked.
Yes.
What are they going to do? My mom's a school teacher. My dad was a salesman. No one was going to be there to watch us. No one was there when we got home. You had to take care of your own. So It's absolute lunacy and elitism, and these very noticeable that the Democratic governors and the senators and assemblymen of the state level, they were all getting paid while the rest of their electorate was unemployed. Interestingly,
Yeah, they're making a lot of money. Yeah, they're getting richer.
Yeah, and so and I don't want these, so you have to, I'm always going to err on the side of, individual responsibility. There's a risk in anything that you do. Now, who's going to decide what that risk is? I want to make that decision for me and my family. I don't want like some, state assemblyman or somebody who's getting all their money from the pharmaceutical industry making that decision for me.
Yep.
So but it was very interesting because they had a plan. I don't know if this thing was whatever, but it was definitely used for political purposes, and it's still being used for political purposes. You see these schools now where they have plexiglass around every student when children are not the drivers of this disease. So it's purely it's a psychological warfare, and I would say child abuse at this point. When you surrounding this kid in plexiglass, putting a mask on their face all day, that is a psychological damage. We have no idea what that's causing. But I guarantee you it's not good. It ain't normal, and I ain't doing it to my kids. Yeah. That's why I moved to this state, to get the hell out of California, which is still struggling with it, even though the CDC and the World Health Organization, both criminal organizations, both completely conflicted, and they're changing their rules all the time. They're saying, if you had the coronavirus like I had, which wasn't that horrible, wasn't that great, but now they're saying that's no longer. They were saying, well, if you had that, then you're fine. Now they're saying, no, you have to take the vaccine. And I guarantee you, in 2 years, no matter what, you heard it here first. In 2 years, it's going to be like, if you, or every commercial on TV is going to be, if you or anyone you know took the COVID vaccine, you could be eligible for millions of dollars. But which is not true actually, because they're complete liability free. They have no liability, the pharmaceutical industry, the doctors, hospitals. If something does go wrong, you can't sue them. You can't. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
So if something does go wrong, if you're one of the people that has a bad reaction to this, you cannot sue. So they have no liability. There's absolutely no reason for them to want to make anything safer because it doesn't cost them a damn thing. So, I mean, I really think you have to question who's benefiting from all this stuff. And I really think you don't have to look too far.
No.
So you should probably cut that out if you still want to be on YouTube.
So are you going to take the vaccine or no?
I already had it, so why should I take it? And I don't know. Also, I'll tell you there's that meme out there. These two mice. The one mouse says to the other mouse, "You going to take the new COVID-19 vaccine?" He said, no way in hell. Why not? I'm waiting until they're done with the experimental human trials. So I'm sorry, but I don't know. I feel like I agree with the guy DeSantis in Florida. Let's keep things open. Let's keep businesses going. Sure. And if people want to take it, they can take it. But the idea that you got to mandate anything that is a liability-free drug, I don't think you should mandate anything that where you can't sue if something goes wrong.
Like you said, you can choose for yourself if you want to.
Well, that's the
be
idea.
In the mix of
they're
not
trying
social
to,
distance.
but they're going to try to take it away though. Look, they're going to try to do you can't get on planes unless you have this thing, which is un-American. It's like well, you're free to stay in your home, but you're not free to go and So that is un-American, and hopefully people will stand up for individual liberty, which is what this country is founded on.
Yep. I totally agree with everything that you said there, Rob.
So
I actually
individual
think
liberty.
Fantastic that I've learned this part because a lot of people that are involved in the film industries tend not to be thinking the way that you're thinking. So.
Well, yeah. Well, you don't see Tom Hanks calling me up for any movies anytime soon. That's okay. Look, I think at a certain point in a man's life, and when your country is under attack and a tyranny that's happening, and I really feel like it's closing in on as far as fascism. It's just when you have a industry that is controlling the government very close to, which is the pharmaceutical industry. At a certain point, you either have to stand up now or it will be a century in chains. And I think Americans have to stand up and want liberty and want to be able to make their own choices for what they want to do with their families and for what kind of country they want to have.
Careful, Rob, don't incite anything.
So, I mean, and that's why I think the governor, it's going to be interesting to see if Governor Newsom gets recalled. If he does, it's going to be a rocket shot over the bow to other authoritarian people putting in and restricting liberties.
You could go state after state with that. I mean, look at New York's Governor Cuomo right now.
He's getting a lot of shit. Finally, the FBI is getting involved now. So you can't lie to to the electorate, even if you have a control of your own legislature and you have the governorship. At a certain point, people will be exposed. And they will be. And at the end of the day, like, I think it's not a Democrat, it's not a Republican, it's not a libertarian thing. It's, do you want to have a free country where people can make the decisions? I remember, like, a friend of mine saying in 1976, the 200-year, the bicentennial, this has been the greatest country in the history of the world. How are they going to fuck it up?
Yeah, they figured out how to do it, too.
How are they going to fuck it up?
From the inside.
From the inside. From saying, like, free speech. Well, not all free speech. What do you mean not all free speech? The idea of free speech is for me to stand up for the speech that I find loathsome, that I find that makes me sick to my stomach. You're either for that, or you're either for all of it or none of it. And the idea that there needs to be some sort of, then who's the one deciding? Who are the fact checkers? Interesting. I have a friend, Dr. Drew, who was just silenced on and like warned on Facebook and I'm sorry, kicked off Google or YouTube, which is the same shit. And he's a board-certified physician talking to another board-certified physician about science, about stuff that they know about for 30 years each, these guys. And they said, well, no. They're fact-checked by these nerds so it's not about science, is it? It's about control. It's about, we're going to do what we want to do, and it isn't about, like, science. So basically, science is handicapped by the politicians, and then we're handicapped by what the science who is controlled by the politicians say. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And I think people wake up to it. Enough people will say enough of this shit. Unfortunately, you have censorship on a level that we've never seen before.
Right.
It really is a McCarthyism that's coming back in the late 50s. And people don't change. The situations that can come up will just invoke those past that past ugliness, where, like, people, like, they've literally said, especially like the governor of, the mayor of Garcetti of LA, like, rat on your neighbors.
Yeah.
If this happens, rat on your neighbors. Like, telling on me, that literally is like something out of Europe in the early 1940s.
Oh yeah, they're asking the kids rather than the parents too.
Yeah, if there's more than 4 people in England, what's happening right now. So it isn't to say, like, if you are affected by this virus, you could get, for the people, it's got a 99.8% cure rate. That's just the fact. But if you are affected by it, people do get fucked up by it. But then again, people get fucked up riding a motorcycle. And if you get fucked up on a motorcycle, it doesn't mean you should stop everybody else from riding a motorcycle. But there's that idea. No, but what if you're out there and you're affecting me? Well, then you can stay home.
Right.
That's my opinion. So, but that hasn't got me, a lot of work in show business. But like I said, at a certain point, you have to stand up for what's right and for freedom and for standing up for what your beliefs are and help protect your country. I mean, people who stay silent, there'll be a time where you won't be able to talk.
No,
and we're getting close to that.
Rob, I can agree with you more. I simply want to say amen on almost all aspects right there.
Like you said, almost. He left himself a little slack, didn't he? On almost all that. I like that.
Oh, no, hell.
All except for...
I take most of that as a compliment.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No, but I do think we need to stand up and speak our piece, because that's what it's about. I mean, the dissent, people who disagree, and trying to, if you have a good idea, I want to hear it, and dissuade me with your better argument. But to silence
Prove me wrong. Yeah.
Prove me wrong. But to silence me, to censor me, to shut up people and demean them, to demonize them, and try to destroy them is not a form of democracy. Is not a form of to bettering society or coming up with better ideas.
Control. Yeah.
It's control.
Because they say you're inciting to something, or it's hate speech. Who determines that shit?
Well, right. So it is a form of tyranny. It's a form of authoritarianism, totalitarianism, something more aligned with what you see in China.
Absolutely.
What you more see in the former Soviet Union.
Oh, when you got sports stars that are, going, yeah, that's that's bad. You know, I mean, people are going to follow their lead just because, you know, they're sports figures and shit. What they call them, role models, right? They're fucking role models, but these role models are just doing what's putting money in their pocket.
Yeah. Well, I would, you know, I think we are in a tough age right now, and I think that people, I think Americans will choose freedom. They will.
I hope so.
They will, and they are. It's just, unfortunately, it's not represented because if they're able to silence people, we don't know how many people are being silenced on Twitter, Google, YouTube, Facebook. We don't know how many thousands of voices are being silenced, and
Maybe millions.
Yeah, yes, I would say, you know. So we have to, you know, but Americans will stand up for it. It's like any form of totalitarianism. It can only go so far before people will rebel against it. And at a certain point, when people get silenced, you know, in society, like whether it was the former Soviet Union, where like everybody knew that Pravda and TASS, the state-run newspapers and press outlets, were full of shit. Everybody knew that.
Right.
So they counted on, you know, word of mouth. You go, hey, what do you think's going on? You know, and that's what the Soviet citizens, would they'd count on that.
That was the first couple times I was actually in Russia when it was known as USSR. So I basically had a chance to see it, you know,
firsthand.
When it was ruled.
Everybody's scared shitless to say anything, which is kind of similar now.
Right.
Literally, you would be out in public and they would be looking over their shoulders as to who's watching me talking to you.
Yeah, but you know what happened when it finally fell in East Germany? Was when they had a secret police set aside, like separated from the regular police and regular from society, this group who was going to go in and kill and do whatever they got to do to remain and retain order. When these guys refused to shut it down and to kill their own citizens because they knew that their uncles and aunts and their brothers and sisters were also protesting and peacefully protesting, as soon as they refused to clamp down and kill people, their own people, that's when the government fell. Right. Totalitarianism, you know, that East Germany collapsed right then. And so I think it's going to be like whenever you have totalitarianism, and it's coming up now in different forms, and it is, you know, and all through big tech, now they're squeezing it. And the idea that like, hey, they're a private company, they could do what they want. No, they made a pact with the Congress that they were going to be a public forum, and therefore they got the protections under 230 in Congress, which prevented them, gave them liability protection from getting sued. So that needs to be taken away. Let them get sued by everybody. Let them have 40,000 lawsuits in a day, and trust me, this shit stops. But until they're going to go after the Democrats, because what I will say the liberals will do more than anything, instead of when the only people they'll attack more than the conservatives are the liberals that step out of line. The illiberal liberals will attack the liberals and people who step out of line, and then at a certain point the Democratic controlled Congress will step in, and I hope so.
Well, I do too.
You know, when they start eating their own.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to happen, and we'll see. You know,
the partisanship has to stop, and you have to do what's right eventually, not just for your party.
But it's going to have to cost them in their pocketbook.
Yeah.
Until they get spanked with 40,000 lawsuits, Google, you know, for or YouTube for not owning content or whatever, and they then you're going to see a change because all of a sudden there's going to be a couple of $1 billion and their stock will dip, and they go, what?
But media also has to be thrown in that equation.
Media
right now
I
is
mean,
not doing their job.
there's no checks and balances whatsoever.
Yeah,
there's no longer
exactly.
journalism. It's
Correct.
just it's not objective at all. It's not about finding the truth. It's just about just keeping this narrative going,
Right.
and I hopefully that'll run its course too. People are sick of it. I mean, if you take a look at like what the numbers are, Joe Rogan has 5 million listeners, and like you take CNN. And they might have 550,000 at night. I mean, so you get Joe Rogan and his podcast will have 5 million, and yet CNN will have 500,000, maybe 350,000 some nights. So you just that's the kind of numbers you're dealing with. So all of a sudden you have somebody who's entertaining, you have somebody who's really bright, and somebody who doesn't have a particular. I would say he's more liberal minded and definitely more libertarian. and not completely Democratic or not completely Republican, but somebody's
And
open-minded.
Yeah, the agenda's not in your face.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have like a, I mean, he seems independent. Like he doesn't have, he's not told exactly what to say every night like some of the other news. And look, it's something that will work its way because people will get sick of it, and then it'll run its course, and then they'll have to do something else. But I would just say to people who are like depressed about the modern media and the tech companies, it's only been about 15 years that it's been such a dominant form in our society. And if you look at any new industry or anything that changed the world 15 years in, I would just go back to aviation. This is my example. I say, if you look at 15 years into aviation, basically 1903, when the planes started, flying planes, and 15 years later, they were just learning how to kill people with it. So that's where we are with social media. About 15 years in, they're just learning how to destroy people, kill them, digitally, and kill their careers with it. And then it'll turn into aviation again, and then the people will be using it again. So I don't think it's a case where to be completely 100% negative or be depressed about it. I think it'll grow, and people will respond accordingly. And hopefully, there'll be some sort of moderation to it. And that'll just have to be, at the end of the day, it'll have to be in their pocketbooks. Again, if 230 goes away tomorrow and they get sued, this shit ends. So, anyway.
I like the optimism.
You got to be optimistic. What else you got?
No, I totally agree. I couldn't agree with you more on that. So
Who would you fight?
I've enjoyed the conversation.
I would fight David. I would fight David Spade because I think I could take him.
Would you fight him in an MMA?
I think, yeah. I think just regular boxing, because I don't think either of us would have the time to learn the grappling. Nobody wants to see David Spade and I grappling. But I do think, like, in a regular fight, I think, because I knew, like, when I as a little guy growing up, you got to defend yourself. And you're going to get that one punch. So you just look at that nose and just wait for it. Because usually, most guys, unless they're Don Frye or whatever, Don will get hit once and wake him up. Those guys, they get knocked down once and they wake up. It's like, you don't want to fight that guy. You want to hit a guy like, okay, he doesn't really want to fight. Those are the guys I was dying I couldn't wait to fight, because those are the guys, okay, this is going to end quickly. I remember, like, a really nice guy, Bob McPeak. For some reason, he was picking on me. He was 6'3", and I was just trying to get to his nose. I said, if I can just get to that nose, I said, and I'm faster than him. I'm little, I'm wired, and I just got that right.
Got that overhand right.
I did. It was a short jab, because that's the power right there. Right. And so, he's looking down, which is a huge disadvantage because you have no strength punching down. But punching up, you can use your legs. So I said, I just got that little turn, when you turn the fist.
Got rotate.
Yes. And I got his nose, and then it was over. And I said, okay, that was a good one. I didn't even get hit. But then there was another guy I fought, and my goodness, Schultz was his name. This guy had such hard hands. And there was a Dutchman, Cliff van der Werf. And this guy, I remember after the fight, I said, how'd I do? And my friend said, well, your nose is over here on my cheek. He just had the hardest hands. That's the worst part. If you got to get with really hard knuckles, that you just feel it in your bones. It's like, good Lord. But so you didn't want to fight, but if you did, you wanted to make sure it was around the school area, so that
it could be broken up.
if it wasn't going in your favor, there was a decent chance. But sometimes you get caught on the way home, and it's not on a street.
Right.
It's like a grassy area, and there's just kids around
Working without a net.
There's nobody gonna fight this one. No one's gonna break this fight up.
No.
And that's the worst one. So it's like you kind of had to learn to do that. But then and most of the fights though, most of the guys, they don't want to like kill the other guy. It's just you get tired. Okay, that's enough. A
lot of people don't like seeing the sight of their own blood, or as you have somebody like Marvelous Marvin Hagler, he sees blood, his own blood, and he really gets wired up more, like a bull.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Sugar Ray Leonard told me a great story. He said, I knew like anything, because it was one of the great things being a famous person. He's like, I'm with Adam Sandler. Next thing I know, we're at a fight. And then the next thing you know, we're back in Vegas and we're having dinner with Sugar Ray Leonard. The next thing you know, we're hearing Sugar Ray Leonard stories. He said to me, I just knew anything I said. I just knew he was going to say, he wanted the opposite. I said, I want big gloves. And then Sugar, I want small gloves. I said, I want the smallest ring you can get. He said, I want the biggest ring you can get. So Sugar Ray got everything he wanted: a big ring, small, light gloves, and then I forget the other one. It was like 12 rounds instead of 15 or whatever it was back then. But I really respect Sugar Ray. I mean, just a man to go toe to toe and fight the fight where he shouldn't have against Duran. I don't know if you'll ever have a guy like that. And no disrespect to Mayweather, but Mayweather never fought another guy's fight. He never said, you know what, I'm going to fight and beat Pacquiao at Pacquiao's fight. And he never fought Pacquiao in 2007. I'm not taking away from Mayweather, but he didn't fight Pacquiao in 2007 because Pacquiao was a guy who can hit you from any place with the left or right, and the left was worse than the right, and he can come at you from below his knees, and those legs that he had and just turning those hips would just devastate you. And he was willing to sacrifice the body and get in close, and you're going to knock him out, he's going to knock you out. And that's not the guy Mayweather wanted to fight. He didn't want to fight somebody who didn't care about losing, because Pacquiao came from the slums. Yeah. My mom's from the Philippines. My mom she starved during the war, and there's just another level of what you're willing to when you starve, you're going to survive. There's another level of it. So that was when Pacquiao came from nothing. Literally, it's that's something that you can't when you go up against that. Oh, yeah. There's another desire. It's like when you see those Russian tennis players, the girl Russian tennis players. It's every time they hit the ball, it's and these beautiful blonde girls, but my God, they have just another level. Yeah. It's different than the blonde girls in America fighting, playing a tennis match. They're just they know what it's like to just to live it, eat it, breathe it, and what it means to lose.
Well,
and they don't want to
walk 5 miles to get a bucket of dirty water.
Yeah.
So is your mom a Pacquiao fan?
She just passed away. She did good. She made it through COVID. She kicked COVID's ass at 92, and she just passed away of a stroke. But I don't know. She was a fan of Pacquiao. I mean, she was very proud of being Filipino, but her father was an American soldier, and so she just wanted to get to America. She just knew that America was going to be. She just wanted to have a chance at a better life. That's why education was everything to her. That was the dog snorting because he knew I dropped.
God, quit feeding your dog cookies, okay?
I dropped out of college, and my mom hated that because college was everything to her. College was freedom. College was having a roof over your head. College was food in your belly.
That education's huge.
Well, that's what we need. That's going to make a difference. If you want to get a country out of poverty, you want to get a society out of poverty, you get people out of poverty, you better educate them. If you want to put them in poverty.
But you've got to have somebody to hold the horses, though.
Yes.
You've got to have somebody who's willing to get their hands dirty and do the menial labor jobs, though.
Absolutely. And pay them and respect them accordingly. That's what makes society. You have to got everything. But
if you're not making anything here, you got to depend on another country. I mean, Trump saved our ass because the Chinese are making their drugs, So,
a country without a base of a factory base, without
it's fucked.
Well, it's not going to be competitive, and it's certainly not going to provide decent jobs. And that's what we want. Right. The American dream isn't to become a billionaire or win the lottery, or isn't to become like a YouTube star. It's to own a house.
Yeah,
it's to have enough money to own a house and give your children a better life. And now you're dealing with children who are growing up. These new generation of kids are going to be scared. Getting germs from another kid. They're being taught that they're germ factories. Yeah. The fear gear all over the school. So, but I'm very positive about I feel like I'm not pessimistic. I think Americans they're going to want freedom. There's a lot of Don Frys out there. They just don't get on the internet enough. They just need their own YouTubes. they need their own podcasts. And then people will listen to you.
Yeah. I hope so. My kids didn't.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be an uphill fight, but it's one worth taking. Why not? I think it's an interesting time. As there's a Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. We are being cursed right now by very interesting times. But I think in 2 years you're going to see a huge shift. In less than 2 years, in 20 months, you're going to see the Congress shift back to the Republican Congress, which is going to be good. I mean, I got to tell you what, I guarantee you Biden wishes that the Republicans control the Senate so he could have some sort of moderation. I don't think he's going to be in there long.
No.
I don't think this is the only time ever there's been like, you never heard like you never heard like it was a Trump Pence administration or a,
Yeah.
it was a Clinton Mondale administration. This is the first time you're hearing it's just a Biden Harris administration.
Right.
Because I think they're ready to. He's going to be.
They're gonna move him out.
He's not going to be in there very long.
No, they're gonna
I said
move
8
him
months.
Right out. Yeah.
Did you think why would be taken out? I hate to be the elephant
No, I
in
just
the room
don't.
here right now.
I just don't think he's going to be capable of. I just don't think he's 100% there. I think everybody knows that, and it isn't anything against the guy. I mean, I think he's been a moderate for most of the time. I'm not a big fan of all his policies, but I just like the idea that somehow foreign policy changes under the Democrats and Republicans is just not. Is not factual. It's pretty much, the foreign wars is pretty evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats. Interestingly, under Trump, there was no new wars,
Right.
which is pretty good, I think.
He's the only president. Yeah.
So, but there wasn't an expansion of wars. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think he listened to himself. And I don't think he didn't really get, when he had a chance to get the troops out, he really didn't do it. The idea that there's still more to do in Afghanistan 19 years in, it seems like pretty... I mean, I don't know. I can't think of like one rational reason to continue to stay there. I'm not a military person, but I'll support the military if they're going to be there. Give them everything they need, but let's get them home. I mean, the idea that we need to continue that for another 19 years is absolutely insane.
Yeah, totally insane. I totally agree with you on that, Rob. That's
So what else are we doing, Don? What do you got coming up? Talk to me. When's our next movie?
Let's see. I'm working on a movie right now with you and I. Yeah.
Yes, well, let's get another one going. We had a good time on that. Big Stand
Great time.
was such a fun little movie that we got. I mean, I like that one because people discover that because it didn't get a big release.
Yeah, but everybody I talk to love it.
Yeah,
they fucking love it. They said it's the funniest movie I've ever seen. They always ask, how was Rob to work with? Yeah. How was David to work with?
Yeah, that was David Carradine, his last good movie. He made a couple more after that. His last good one, David Carradine. He was a pleasure. I mean, he said to me, David Carradine, the great kung fu actor and Kill Bill, and he's done so many movies. Death Race 2000, and he was just in a ton of stuff. He said to me, Rob, I tried Alcoholics Anonymous. Then I realized something. I go, what's that, David? I like to drink. And so I just,
a little bit of a conflict there, I would think.
So
yeah.
I would knew that, you want to shoot David before 5 o'clock.
Right.
Because at 5 o'clock he starts drinking. At 12 he starts drinking. By 5 he really starts drinking. So we got to get his stuff early. So if I knew we were doing a night shoot in Chinatown, and I told the crew, I said, listen, Mr. Carradine's going to be working tonight, and I don't want anyone, no matter what he says, I don't want anyone behind the bar serving him any drinks, no matter what he says. Please, we're going to be shooting till 3 o'clock in the morning, and we got a lot of stuff to do. I leave, and I come back 45 minutes, and Mr. Carradine, David Carradine's behind the bar, a half bottle of vodka in already, saying, who else wants this screwdriver? And so that was a long night. We still got a decent performance out of him, but it was a long night. And I think he knew that I was never going to yell at him or scold him. I was just happy to be working with him. And you have to work within the parameters of it. He was, different. Like Don would give more, and I knew he had my back. It was one day I was eating like 12 eggs a day, and trying to bulk up and stay in shape. And one day I got food poisoning because it was so hot there that the eggs were all bad, and I went to the hospital. And Don Frye was looking out for me and shot and was able to help direct, help all the actors stay in line and get some really good shots. And all that stuff, we really needed that because there was only so much time we were allowed to be in that prison. So I was always like, Don Frye's, and everybody's like, Don, well, thank God for Don.
Missed
and he
his
kept
calling.
order.
What's funny is the extras. They are all ex-cons. And
Yes.
The guards, you gotta walk through the guards to get in there. And they're like, yeah, I had that guy on my block. I had that guy on my block.
They were real, and the guards were guards.
Yeah, they were.
And it was really interesting because I said, okay, we want to do this scene where we, with the guards start shooting. And he said, so what the prisoners are like, the guys, former prisoners, former cons, would go, what do you want us to do? And I said, well, just do whatever comes natural. So they started shooting, everybody hit the deck, and then it wasn't funny at all.
Yeah.
So you got to keep running. They said, well, you wouldn't keep running, you get fucking shot. And so I said, well, can you do it? And so they started running, and then it was funnier. Yeah. But it was interesting how, you know, like.
Instantaneous.
They all went down.
kicked
But
in.
let me tell you, when everybody went to lunch, it was really interesting. And Don will tell you this. He confirmed this. Like when the prisoners were sitting down, they wouldn't sit with the guards, even though the guards who were actors.
Yeah.
The prisoners sat with the prisoners, and the guards sat with the guards. There was tense. Even the people just pretending to be prisoners didn't want to sit with the guards. It's funny how just the uniform brings in that kind of tension.
Segregation. It was horrible.
But we had a good time, and there was some good laughs, and it was nuts.
It was fun though. That was the funnest movie you said I've ever been on.
Oh, thank you, man.
It
Well,
was
you
your,
did
you
great.
know, it was you. I mean, because you controlled everybody. You know, because you had everybody laughing. If things would get tense, like you said, he'd start telling jokes and everything, and everybody would start laughing and be. And
We had a
relax
good
right
time.
away.
There's some great guys on that one, and a few of them passed away now. You know.
Yeah.
But Scott Wilson's gone, and
Yeah.
the fighter Chico.
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 Gonzalez.
Chico. Is it Chico?
Yeah, you know Chico.
Come on now. What's it?
Not
Chico.
Morales. No.
He had that great fight where he got knocked down.
Yeah.
Knocked down 2 times or 3 times in a fight, got up and then knocked the other guy out to win the championship. It was one of the greatest fights. The fight of the year. Chico Morales or Chico, we got to look that up. You guys get on that, will you? He was fighting Jose,
Well, we're all
Chico
full of,
what? No, Chico
Corrals.
light heavyweight. Chico Corrales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chico Corrales.
And it was Corrales, and it was one of the greatest fights I'd ever seen. He got knocked down viciously twice, and that's what happens. Sometimes you get knocked down once, you get knocked down second time, you wake up.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was like, funny that first UFC fight I had, against the big 410 pounder. I go lumbering out there, and boom, he hit me with the jab and cracked my nose. I go, wake up, Frye, you're in a fight.
Yeah.
When you said he hit me, woke me up, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Wake up, Frye, you're in a fight.
Not quite everyone wakes up there, Don. You're one of those exceptions to the rule. Some people tend to go nighty-night,
Well, I was just
That's
lumbering
true.
out there, I mean, like when we fought Abbott,
Oh my
And-
goodness.
Everybody
goodness.
says, whatever you do, don't go toe to toe.
We were in the back. We were in the back, and he had just
Yeah.
fought 2 fights, and he was pretty wasted, just trying to recover. So I
Again,
said,
set that stage because
Now, how
people
long
get-
between
this-
fights?
You gotta look at this is the 8-man tournament. The same 2-hour pay-per-view that plays today. Back then,
Yeah.
where you fight 3 fights, not just one.
they're supposed to be
part
the
of
and,
that.
and how long of a
winners.
time period?
Yes.
Oh, whenever they call
Didn't
you up,
matter.
whenever the fight's
However
over.
the fight went, the next fight went,
That's
you could-
unbelievable.
Yeah.
They did not have like the filler material that they have today. Like back
Yeah.
then, they could go back and say, "Well, here's some clips of Don Frye, sparring a little bit earlier in
Yeah.
in his
Yeah.
career and stuff like that." They didn't have all that kind of filler, so
Yeah.
it was really poor in the beginning how they ran because all of a sudden they're like looking at the announcers like going. Well, go to our website. Well, here's our T-shirts or our hats. Anybody find that tooth that flew out?
Run
last
that
fight?
clip
I
of
mean,
Vanilla Ice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have nothing to
Jim
run.
Brown getting drunk during that.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
So the whole industry has really has changed a great deal to where now they have all kinds of footage.
Oh,
because
yeah, yeah.
If you walk out into the main event, it's scheduled for 5 rounds,
Yeah.
5 minutes a round, and all of a sudden, boom, it's done in 17 seconds.
Yeah, it could be.
Boom.
You gotta
And-
go.
and
nowadays,
that-
there's an itinerary that's right to the
Now-
second.
Did you end that guy's career? The Japanese guy. What's his name?
Takayama?
Yeah, Takayama. Now that was that fight had to be your most famous fight of all time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then that was to me one of the most. If you look at any fight, any time of 2 men against men at that time, there's a round in there that's got to be one of the most famous rounds in all of competitive fighting. That was like remarkable. And like I really felt like when you were just they hit and you're lowering your hand a little bit, lowering your head so like to receive the less damage, but it was still like it was toe to toe to toe. I mean, and the audience just losing their minds. And it was just like, you show that to people, and you couldn't write something like that. If you wrote that in a script in Rocky
believe it,
12, you said, no, that one you don't believe. And you see it, and it's still just as remarkable. At the end of that fight, I mean, I really don't think that there's certain fights that end careers. That must have, I know he fought after that.
Rob, I'm not here to kiss his ass, But anyone that's been hit by this man would definitely respect Takayama for the amount of punishment that guy had took.
Yeah, I think
incredible.
It reminded me of like that Roberto Duran was fighting that handsome guy back, and he said, and the fighter said at the end, "Not handsome anymore." But no, there was just a level of like of brutality that happened. It was unleashed. That was by the end of that fight. I mean, I feel like I don't think he could fight after that.
No, if you want to watch something really strange, watch the audience. You know, ignore the two fighters and watch the audience. And some of them, it's just like, wow, you know, the way they react. You know?
Well, they were stunned by it. It was one thing between a good fight and also like it was like the intensity and the barrage and the number of punches and the number of just toe-to-toe punches. It's just like, it was a guy in box. It's just the guys who are lined up against each other, just wailing on each other. But I'd never seen, and I've seen the guys in the clinch who would come up and give a punch, and then the other guy would come up and give a punch. But it was hit, and it was just
that wasn't a dramatization.
No, and it was like it was absolutely gripping at two really good athletes.
Yeah.
At the prime of the prime of life, and that was like you weren't going to have that kind of intensity. And it was like, who is going to fall down first? And I just knew it wasn't going to be you. But at the same time, it was like it was just coming in with those American flag tighty whities of yours, and the briefs, and then going up against this Japanese superhero.
Yeah.
It's just like the Japanese King Kong was just one of those things. Again, it doesn't happen. It's like one of those things. It's like that Roberto Duran first fight, Sugar Ray Leonard, when they were going toe to toe and like, okay, this is what we paid for.
Yeah. Well, hell, he stepped over the top rope, to get into the ring.
Yeah.
Get in the ring. He just stepped over the top rope.
Okay, Don, but why did you wear like those types of Speedo type of
Great
wear?
choice, by the way. Well, American flag.
Yeah. Well, no. But you could grab clothing. Back during that time era, you could grab clothing, whether you wore gi, things that you could actually grab clothing. And so, I actually wore like professional wrestling trunks, only because they were so tight and snug to the body that you gave them no handles to hold on to.
Right.
So if you had looser garments, it's easy to grab shirts, gis, things of that nature. But to know that something is on you, first off, you're not wearing as much fabric. And you're wearing something very tight. What do you think his plan was in that fight? He wasn't want to go toe-to-toe fighting with you. Was he hoping to grapple you on the ground?
I don't know. I think he was more of a puncher, because the fights I've seen, I never saw him on the ground doing that work, so he was a slugger.
Yeah.
And
a big dude.
He was a big dude.
Where did he come in at? Because I'm thinking that guy must
about
have
300 pounds.
Good Lord. I was thinking he must have been at least 250.
Oh, fuck, he did that when he was 12.
Well, how tall was he? He was like 6'6"?
6, yeah.
For Japanese, very, very, really big.
He was
big dude and looked like he could do some damage, but like he had some vulnerabilities to him. He didn't have much of a defense, I'll say that.
Neither one of us did. No,
you guys weren't
a lot of head movement there.
You weren't covering up.
No.
when you got in that clinch though, what was your head thinking? Like literally, like I'm gonna knock this guy out. He's not gonna get me. I think that also had to psych him out because he was hitting you with everything he had, and he was slowly kind of going, and you weren't. But there was a moment where you were both hit at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just like, do you remember that specific moment?
No, I don't. No, man.
Again, Rob, I'll go back to...
Not as well as you do.
When I finally saw that footage, and it wasn't until quite a bit after their match had taken place, I'm like going, Don, what was going through your mind? Other than Takayama's fist, okay?
Oh, yeah.
They were just simply just obliterating each other, just like you said. You couldn't. It's like machine gun fire, throwing punch after punch, and for such a long duration of time.
It was incredible. It was almost like if in a normal fight, in a regular boxing fight, the referee would have said, "Okay, we got to stop this. There's just too much punishment going on here." You know, so it was one of those, but one of the most dramatic fights in any type of, not just mixed martial arts, not just Prime, not just UFC, but in any mano a mano fight. It was a one for all timers. And anytime I go Don Frye and they go, who's that? Oh, well, you'll know. Let me just show you this. I go, oh yeah, I've seen that. It's
and that clip would be ageless. Sippy, you could show that at any point in time. Is that going? Oh,
I hope you get a piece of that.
No, I don't get anything from that partner.
Except headaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and God bless Takayama. He
Passed away last year.
No, he's alive. What happened was 2017. He was doing a pro wrestling match.
Oh yeah, I remember you told me.
Severed the spinal cord.
Yeah.
He did a sunset flip, and the guy was too short, and he ended up hitting his head and snapping it back.
And the idea that wrestlers and like stuntmen know how to fall exactly right and figure it out is not based in fact.
No.
Yeah.
There's always that mistake.
Yeah. There's always that mistake. Yeah.
I always tell people that I've been hurt far worse in my professional wrestling career than anything else I've ever done. I mean, that's a truthful fact.
And I tore my rotator cuff on Big Stand the very last day, but I said we got to keep going. So that's when I really tore it, and I tore both because you hit a stunt guy, and like if he doesn't want to fly, he doesn't fly. So you got to if he goes the other way or doesn't move, you're taking the hit on your rotator cuff. And so I said, well, I got to commit to this, and I'm spinning this stuff, and I'm 42 years old, gone too fucking old for this, but you just keep doing it, and it was worth it. But I remember I went to see Dr. Nick of the Clippers, and he looked at me and said, how old are you? I go, I'm 42. He said, you really need your shoulders that badly? You really need, because I'm not going to guarantee it's going to be better. It's going to be really tough to all the rehabbing. He said, can you live with the pain? I went I guess. Get out of here then. And he didn't operate on me.
Do you ever think about stem cell shots or anything like that? Because a lot of
no, I haven't. But I mean, I'm trying to get back in shape now, and I do have limited movement in my shoulders. But
still a lot of pain though.
Not as much pain, but when you're picking up your kid this way, yeah, I get this way especially, just because the rotator cuffs are kind of shot.
Dan's doing stem cell
Yeah,
stuff there.
How's it going for you?
I asked what that is because I did do a couple of different shots.
And you felt it helped?
No, fantastic. It's
good.
helped me a great deal.
Just for pain or also for mobility?
Just say no, just for the overall ability. I had a couple shots in knees and it literally gave me back ability that I actually thought, this is the downward spiral. Finally starting to hit that big.
My dick would work as well, you think, the stem cell?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. It depends.
I'll take one of those.
There's only so much they can do.
Yeah. If he saw the guy I saw, they take your own blood.
Oh, yeah.
It's not baby embryos.
Yeah.
Then forget it.
Then forget it. I don't want that.
Yeah,
what's the fun in that?
Yeah. I wanted a horse embryo, yeah. They take your own blood and spin it, separating it, and then, cook it, and then they put it back into you.
Well, that's a good idea. I'll do that. Why the fuck not? I'm in.
Sounds
Let's
like
go.
a good time.
We got that done here? Well, this has been amazing. Well, I will say, there's a lot of the people I've worked with over my lifetime is very few people that left a lasting mark where I go when you meet somebody, I go, that's a friend for life. And that's Don Frye to me. Whatever this guy, anytime, whatever I can do for him, anytime. And it just, the spirit of a guy who just puts everything on the line.
My toilet's clogged up.
I'm in, baby. No, but the level of commitment that he puts into the fights and he puts in, and that level of heart and the commitment that he puts into his acting. This is great. This is you got a guy who's got your back, and that's what you want,
Yeah, Rob Schneider, I'll just say it's been a real pleasure. My first chance to get a chance to meet you today, but then having on you here and chatting for this time frame. I mean, this has been fantastic. We've all had a chance to learn a little bit more about you in a lot of different ways. So
we can cut this down to 15 minutes, can't we, guys?
I'm sure we can. But just from the bottom of our hearts, just want to let you know that from the Toxic Masculinity.
That's
podcast.
A great title. I like it.
Yeah,
we
see
appreciate
there?
having
Yeah.
you.
I had to convince, a little bit of convincing to do, but I thought,
I like
What does
toxic
that make you think
masculinity.
of?
It makes you think of of guys who are like not embarrassed to admit who they are. It's like it is, and like the idea like as masculinity isn't something to diminish; it's something to bring out. Right. And it doesn't mean you're a bad guy if you have a lot of masculinity. There's men and then there's women. The idea that we have to, I just saw some footage of and this is going to get me in trouble more than anything we talked about. I just saw some footage of people who were allowed to compete in women's high school sports.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just isn't fair. I saw this guy just winning by by 15 yards. And, he's allowed in his new administration to compete.
He felt like a little girl that day, yes.
So it just isn't fair. I mean, you want equality. Women have been fighting for equality all these years, and now they're losing it again?
Yeah, you're not going to hear any of us men argue that point with you whatsoever. No,
Yeah,
to me, it's like if you want to have a different type of world championship game or something like this, be our guest. That's the land of opportunity right now. But if you're a male, you should be competing in male sports. If you're female, you should be competing in female sports. At
the same time, like I'll respect what you want to do as a human being, whatever that is, and I'm all for it. However, I think that to compete and that's not fair. And look, I'm all for if you want to have I was one of the few people saying, hey, drug Olympics, let's go. Everybody, whatever drugs you want, let's see what happens. Whatever, and then you'll see what happens. Like those East German weightlifters, all of a sudden, the shoulder breaks out of the arm and the bones coming through. It's like, there's only so much the bone's willing to take.
Because they were lifting like 10 tons at that time, right?
And that's still not a deal breaker. They're going to keep going.
I just remember.
And we're talking about just the women, right? We're not talking about the men yet.
I know. I just remember those East German swimmers, those girls just like, and like, well.
I do too.
I remember thinking like that's amazing. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, but like, wow, I was impressed with that. And look, there's an athlete is always going to look for any advantage he can get.
Sure.
And then
of course.
But I think there's some.
It's like a comedian who steals jokes,
Yeah, any advantage he can get. Yeah, but they can get caught doing that shit too.
Exactly. Yeah.
They can get an eye poked out in a different way. Yeah.
You find the old shit. There was a guy who never got Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh yeah,
respect.
Rodney was great.
Oh yeah, find his old tapes and add them to your repertoire.
Yeah, he was great. I remember he came up to Adam Sandler. Hey, that's a really funny joke about you and your old girlfriend. Let me buy that off you. And Adam was like, hey, Rodney, I only got like about 8 minutes of jokes. I need to keep them all. Hey, I'm going to take it from you. At least let me give you some money for it anyway. He was just joking, but I reminded him of that years later because I remember it was a funny exchange, and Adam was really proud of that because he was our hero, Rodney, And Rodney said, I never stole a joke in my life. Let me tell you that, kid. That's not true. And I said, you were joking, Rodney. I was like, I never stole a joke in my life. That's like a thing. It's a big thing. Hey. Rodney was a great guy. Rodney was. I never saw Rodney one time during the day or night. You didn't see his junk. He would have after the show. He'd be in the backstage, put on a robe, and then his 80-year-old balls and junk is hanging out at some point. I go, Rodney, you got to put some underwear. What are you talking about, man? Why are you looking down there then?
The man that gets no respect.
No respect at all.
Him and Don Rickles were phenomenal. Man.
So they were till the end. I remember he said, come on, hey, you, let's go gamble. We're in Vegas. I'm going to lose. I said, how do you know? He said, look at me. Do I look like a guy who's going to win? I'm going to lose $500 and I'm going to go to bed. So we went downstairs. It was with Adam Sandler, Judd Apatow, and Quentin Tarantino, and Chris Rock, I think, was there. And so we were gambling, and I swear to God, the dice didn't even make it all the way to the end. The dice just hated him. The guy had no luck. After he lost $500 so quick, and he listened, what'd I tell you? I'm out $500 down. I'm going to bed. And that'll be it. And he'd go to bed. But he smoked pot. He smoked pot, And I said, you smoke, Rodney? He said, of course I smoke. It's the only reason I'm still alive. Yeah. So, but he was a great guy. I was very proud to be Paul Bear at his funeral.
Was he always in character, or was that
he
him?
was Rodney? Was Rodney? That was him. He was a guy when he was a younger comedian. He didn't make it when he was younger because he didn't have that look yet. He looked like a longshoreman who'd break your legs when he was in his 40s with those dark circles and a little bit of gray and mostly black hair. But when he got 50, he kind of softened a little bit. So had that, the kind of stiff way of walking around. So and that kind of fatherly thing that everybody rooted for and loved, And that's when he hit it big.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
he's
amazing.
Uses some classic movies too. All just great
I
comedy.
mean, maybe the greatest ever. I mean, Caddyshack. There's nothing greater than that.
No.
We're all trying to make a movie like Caddyshack after all these years.
It was phenomenal. It was, they got ripped apart, when it first came out.
Sure.
And one of the guys committed suicide because of it.
Oh, Doug Kenny jumped off a
A cliff in Hawaii.
jumped off a cliff. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was one of the great comedy writers.
Yeah.
I think he did Animal House too. Maybe one of the greatest jokes ever in the American lexicon of comedy was in Animal House, where the guy shows up and to go on a date.
Mind if we dance with Joe Dates?
Yeah, just before that was when he goes to the sorority and asks to go out with the girl, and then she was blown up in a kiln accident.
Yeah.
Spinning pots, and she died. And he said, "Well, I'm feeling so terrible right now. Can you get some girls to go out with us?" And the next thing, it was like, that's the greatest joke ever. It's such a great joke. Tim Matheson was amazing in that. But anyway, those are the times, baby. So I've enjoyed this, but I think I got to head home because my wife's going to kill me.
All right.
I got 2 young
I
kids.
think we burnt out the batteries, they said.
Okay,
Hey.
Burn, we're done.
Thanks again to Rob Schneider, and that's tweeted out here from.
Toxic masculinity.
There you go. There you go.
You guys-
can show me that sign there.
You guys are going to get rich off those T-shirts. You guys got T-shirts yet?
Not yet.
Shit. You better trademark that.
Yeah.
ToxicMasculinity.com.
Yeah.
Fuck, I want a piece of that. Okay, brother, I've enjoyed this. I love you, pal. I wish you all the
Thank
best.
you, sir.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.